My parents invited me to a family party, but told me there was no seat for me. My sister smirked. Only real family gets a seat. So my next shocking move destroyed their lives. Growing up, it was always my sister Emily who got the special treatment. I tried not to let it bother me. When we were younger, I figured maybe Emily just needed more attention, or perhaps I was just more independent. However, as we got older, it became impossible to ignore. Every little thing she did was celebrated like it was some grand achievement. She got an A on a test? Let's have a family dinner to celebrate. She landed a summer job at some cafe. We're so proud of you, Emily. Let's buy you something special. Meanwhile, I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. When I got a full scholarship to college, they said, "That's nice, honey," before going back to discussing Emily's weekend plans. When I landed a job in my field right after graduation, I got nothing. I thought maybe, just maybe, it would get better as we became adults, but no. If anything, it got worse. This brings me to last weekend. A few days prior, my parents called me out of the blue. "We're having a little family celebration this Saturday," my mom said. "It would mean a lot if you could come." That alone should have been a red flag. My parents never invited me to anything unless it involved Emily in some way. Still, I tried to stay optimistic. Maybe this was different. Maybe for once they actually wanted me around. So like a fool, I said yes. When I arrived at the restaurant, the place was packed. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone was there, all gathered around a long table set up with decorations. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just some small dinner. This was a full-on event. Then I saw the banner. "Congratulations, Emily." I clenched my jaw. Of course this was about her again. I plastered on a fake smile and walked toward the table, looking for a seat. That's when Emily turned to me, her lips curling into a smirk. "Oh," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I didn't know you were coming." Mom glanced at me, looking uncomfortable. "Well, Emily cut her off with a laugh. "I mean, this is for family," she said, gesturing toward the full table where every single seat was taken. I suddenly realized there was no place set for me. I stared at my mom. "There's no seat for me?" Mom shifted in her chair, avoiding my gaze. My dad, as usual, just sat there, saying nothing. "We didn't know if you'd be free," Mom mumbled. Emily snorted. "Or if you'd even bother to show up. You're never around for family stuff." "Family stuff? Like all the events they conveniently forgot to invite me to?" I let out a slow breath and turned to my dad. "So, what's the big occasion? What are we celebrating?" Emily beamed. "I got promoted." I blinked. "Didn't you just start the job 2 months ago?" "Yeah, and now I'm assistant manager." I almost laughed. I had busted my back to get my degree, spent years working my way up in my field, and never got so much as a pat on the back. But Emily gets a promotion 2 months into an entry-level job, and suddenly she's the second coming of Einstein? I should have been angry. I should have yelled, made a scene. Instead, I just nodded. Got it. Then, without another word, I turned and walked out. I didn't even look back. Let them have their little celebration. Let them pat her on the back for something that barely deserved a mention. I was done trying to fit into a family that clearly didn't have space for me. I drove home, half expecting my phone to blow up with messages asking where I went. Nothing, not a single call. Then, the next morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find my parents standing there, looking sheepish. My mom was wringing her hands, and my dad just looked exhausted. Before I could say anything, my mom sighed. "We need to talk." I stared at them, my fingers tightening around the doorframe. "Talk about what?" My mom sighed dramatically, as if I was the one being difficult. "Can we come in?" I crossed my arms. "That depends. What do you need to talk about?" My dad finally spoke up, rubbing his temples. "Look, we need a favor." A favor? Now they needed me? I should have slammed the door in their faces right then and there, but curiosity got the better of me. I stepped aside, letting them in. They walked straight to my living room like they owned the place. My mom perched on the couch, smoothing down her shirt like she was preparing for some serious negotiation. My dad remained standing, shifting awkwardly. I leaned against the wall. "All right, what is it?" Mom gave a small, tight smile. "About last night." I arched a brow. "So they did feel bad. We need you to cover the bill." I blinked. "What?" She spoke like I was being slow. "The dinner bill. It was a bit higher than we expected." My stomach dropped, then flipped right into rage. I stared at them, waiting for some kind of punchline. "You want me to pay for it?" Dad nodded, looking mildly uncomfortable. "You have some money lying around, right? I mean, you're doing well for yourself." I laughed, short and sharp. "You're kidding." Mom shook her head, completely serious. "Emily's promotion was a big deal. We wanted to celebrate properly, but the bill ended up being more than we thought. Since you," she gave me a pointed look, "didn't contribute in any other way, we figured you could at least help out financially." I actually felt lightheaded. "You didn't even save me a seat and now you want me to pay for it?" Mom rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. Oh, I'm sorry, is this dramatic? I gestured wildly at them. Because I'm pretty sure you just showed up at my door to shake me down for money, after pretending I don't exist. Dad cleared his throat. Look, we're not asking for the whole thing, just a few hundred. It's really not that much for you. I clenched my jaw. How much was the bill? Mom hesitated. $1,200. I nearly choked. $1,200? She had the audacity to look embarrassed. Well, we got some expensive drinks, and your uncle ordered a few extra things, and I cut her off. And why is this my problem? Mom sighed, acting like I was the one being unreasonable. Emily doesn't make as much as you, and we paid for most of her college. We thought it was only fair if you helped out, just this once. I felt something snap inside me. Oh, I see. You paid for her college, but not mine. And now, because I worked my butt off to make a decent living, you want me to bail you out after treating me like an afterthought for years? Mom's lips pressed together. We're family. I laughed again, but this time there was no humor in it. No, we're not. Family doesn't do what you did last night. Dad sighed. Just be reasonable. We know you have savings. I tilted my head. And how exactly do you know that? Neither of them answered. Oh. I let out a slow breath. Did you guys go through my finances? Mom quickly shook her head. Of course not. Well, your aunt mentioned you got a bonus recently and we thought. Mom sighed again, switching tactics. Look, sweetheart, we love you, but you need to stop holding on to grudges. It was a misunderstanding last night. I leveled her with a stare. A misunderstanding? You deliberately didn't save me a seat. Emily basically rubbed it in my face and none of you even thought to call when I left. But now that you need money, suddenly I matter? Silence. I shook my head. You know what? No, I'm not paying a cent. Mom's face darkened. Don't be selfish, I scoffed. Oh, you want to talk about selfishness? Let's go there. I crossed my arms, my voice ice cold. Selfish is throwing a huge dinner for Emily's promotion while never acknowledging anything I've achieved. Selfish is expecting me to foot the bill for a celebration I wasn't even welcome at. Selfish is only showing up at my door when you need money. Mom's jaw tightened. We have acknowledged your achievements. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, really? Name one time. She opened her mouth, then closed it. A flicker of frustration passed over her face. That's what I thought, I said, shaking my head. You've never once celebrated me. Not when I got into college. Without your help, by the way. Not when I graduated. Not when I landed my first big job. But the second Emily does anything, she gets a whole party. Dad sighed, rubbing his forehead like I was the exhausting one. Emily's situation is different. She needed more support. Because she's your favorite? Mom gasped. That's not true. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Then why did you pay for her college, but tell me to figure it out on my own? Mom hesitated, her lips pressing into a thin line. You were always more independent, I scoffed. That's not an excuse. You made me independent because you didn't give me a choice. Meanwhile, Emily gets everything handed to her, and I'm supposed to be okay with that? Dad stepped in, his voice firmer. This isn't about the past. Right now, we need help covering the bill, and you can afford it. I took a slow breath, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. Let me get this straight. You didn't invite me properly, didn't save me a seat, didn't call when I left, and now you're here asking for money like nothing happened. Mom crossed her arms. We didn't expect the bill to be this high. I rolled my eyes. Then maybe you should have ordered less. She huffed. Stop being petty. You know we'd do the same for you. I barked out a laugh. That's funny, because you haven't. Not once. When I was struggling in college, did you offer to cover my rent? No. When I was eating instant noodles for weeks, did you offer to help? No. But the moment Emily wants to celebrate, suddenly the budget doesn't matter. Dad's face darkened. We are your parents. You owe us some respect. That word owe made me angry. I straightened, my voice steady. No, I don't owe you anything. Respect is earned, and after last night, you've lost whatever little I had left for you. Mom looked genuinely stunned, like it had never occurred to her that I might say no. Dad let out a frustrated sigh. Fine, if you won't help, we'll have to figure it out ourselves. Yeah, I said coolly, you will. Mom gave me a sharp look. Don't expect us to be there when you need something. I let out a bitter chuckle. You were never there anyway. She flinched. I walked to the door and held it open. You can see yourselves out. They hesitated, like they wanted to say something else, but I just stood there, waiting. Finally, Mom huffed and stormed out, Dad following behind her. I shut the door, locking it behind them. Then I exhaled slowly, the anger still buzzing beneath my skin. Something told me this wasn't over. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of texts. My phone buzzed non-stop, the notifications piling up like some kind of digital ambush. Mom texted, "You embarrassed us. Do you even care about family at all?" Dad texted, This isn't how you treat the people who raised you, Emily texted. Wow, you really couldn't even spare a few hundred? Pathetic. Mom texted again. Your aunt and uncle were shocked by your behavior. So were we. I stared at my screen, barely able to process the sheer audacity. They weren't mad at themselves for what they did. They weren't apologizing. No, they were mad at me for refusing to be their personal ATM. I wasn't in the mood for this. I put my phone on silent, got up, and made myself coffee. The warmth of the mug helped ground me, but the anger was still there, simmering just beneath the surface. They had never supported me, never celebrated me, never cared when I was struggling, but now that they needed money, suddenly I was selfish for not handing it over? I should have expected it. This wasn't the first time they had pulled something like this, though this was definitely the worst. Growing up, it had always been about Emily. When she got an A on a test, it was a big deal. When I got straight A's, I barely got a nod. When she made the soccer team, she got new gear and a huge family dinner. When I got accepted into a competitive program, a quick, "That's nice," before moving on. In college, that was the real slap in the face. They had promised to help with tuition when I was younger, but when the time came, suddenly there were financial issues. I had to take out loans, work multiple jobs, and scrape by, while Emily breezed through with everything covered. She needs more help, they had said. You'll figure it out. Well, I did figure it out. I worked my way up, made a decent career for myself, and now that I had some savings, they thought I was an easy target. I was halfway through my coffee when my phone started buzzing again. This time, it was a call from Mom. I debated ignoring it, but part of me wanted to hear what nonsense she had to say now. I sighed and answered. What? She didn't even acknowledge my tone. You need to fix this. I let out a sharp laugh. Fix what exactly? You've upset the whole family. We had to cover the bill ourselves, and it wasn't easy. I leaned against the counter. Sounds like a you problem. She scoffed. We were counting on you. You have plenty of money, and you let us struggle instead. Oh no, I said flatly. You mean you actually had to take responsibility for your own choices? That must have been awful. Don't be a brat, she snapped. Your aunt and uncle think you were incredibly rude. You should apologize. I nearly choked on my coffee. Apologize? Yes, for storming out, for making a scene, and for not being willing to help your own family. I was honestly impressed at how deep her delusion ran. Right, so just to be clear, you invited me to a celebration, didn't save me a seat, told me I wasn't considered immediate family, ignored me when I left, and then expected me to pay for the whole thing, and somehow I'm the bad guy? She sighed like I was being unreasonable. You're twisting things. No, I said, my voice sharp. I'm finally calling you out. And honestly, I should have done it years ago. Silence. Then, in a low, warning tone, she said, You're making a mistake. You don't want to push us away. I smiled, though there was no warmth in it. You already did that on your own. I hung up. The second I did, my hands were shaking, not from fear but from adrenaline. For the first time in my life, I had fully stood up to them, no backing down, no second-guessing myself. It felt good, but something told me they weren't done yet, and I had no idea just how far they were willing to go. The next morning I woke up groggy, my mind still replaying last night's conversation with my mother. But as soon as I reached for my phone, any lingering sleepiness vanished. My lock screen was flooded with notifications, missed calls, texts, social media alerts. My stomach tightened. I had a gut feeling this wasn't going to be good. Unlocked my phone, and the first thing I saw was a public social media post from my mother. It started off deceptively gentle, like she was just a poor, heartbroken mother trying to make sense of a cruel world. It pains me to write this, but sometimes as parents, we have to face the heartbreaking truth that no matter how much love we give, some children will turn their backs on family, she wrote. My eyes widened as I kept reading. Last night we celebrated a huge milestone for our daughter Emily. It was supposed to be a joyful occasion, a time for family to come together and support one another. But unfortunately, not everyone could share in our happiness. I knew where this was going. Other daughter, let's call her X, showed up uninvited, made a huge scene, and stormed out when she realized the world didn't revolve around her. And if that wasn't enough, she refused to help when we unexpectedly needed assistance with the bill, despite having more than enough to spare. I'm absolutely devastated that someone we raised with love could be so heartless, putting money above family. If anyone has advice on how to deal with a selfish, ungrateful child, I'd appreciate it. I froze. The absolute nerve of this woman. It wasn't just a vague, manipulative guilt trip. It was a full-blown smear campaign. My own mother had just thrown me to the wolves. My pulse pounded as I scrolled down to the comments section, already knowing what I'd find. Dozens, no, hundreds of comments, all eating up her sob story without a second thought. Someone commented, "Oh my God, I can't believe X would do this. After everything you've done for her." My aunt commented, "Some people don't deserve good parents. You guys did your best." Emily commented. She's always been like this. It's just getting worse. I feel so bad for Mom and Dad. I gritted my teeth. Of course Emily was there, milking it for all it was worth. She had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, and now she had proof that I was the selfish one, the villain in the family story. The worst part? People were believing it. I checked my private messages. Sure enough, there were tons of them. Wow, I didn't expect this from you. That's so cold. You should be ashamed. How could you do this to your parents? People I hadn't spoken to in years were suddenly crawling out of the woodwork to judge me based on a one-sided, twisted version of events. My hand shook as I gripped my phone. I wanted to scream, to reply and expose everything, the favoritism, the years of neglect, the truth about what really happened. But I knew how this worked. No matter what I said, they would be the victims. If I lashed out, it would prove their point that I was cruel and ungrateful. If I tried to defend myself, they'd call me dramatic and tell me to just let it go. I forced myself to breathe. This wasn't just a petty family argument anymore. I had a choice. I could either sit here, let them destroy my reputation, let them paint me as some heartless, selfish monster, or I could fight back. But I wouldn't fight the way they wanted me to. I wouldn't get into a screaming match in the comments. I wouldn't beg for people to see my side. No, I would make them wish they had never pulled this stunt. I put my phone down, my mind already working through my next move. They wanted to play dirty. They had no idea what I was capable of. Since my family has decided to publicly lie about me, I think it's only fair that I set the record straight. I wasn't going to say anything, but after waking up to dozens of messages from people calling me selfish, I realized something. I'm done protecting people who would rather throw me under the bus than take accountability for their own actions. Let's talk about what really happened. I was invited to my sister's celebration under the assumption that I was actually welcome. When I arrived, I was told there wasn't a seat for me. My sister, who, by the way, has always been treated like royalty while my accomplishments were ignored, made it clear that I wasn't considered immediate family. So I left. No yelling, no scene. I just walked out. Then, hours later, my parents showed up at my door, not to apologize, not to explain, but to ask me to pay for their bill. That's right, the same people who didn't think I was worthy of a seat at the table thought I should pick up the check, and when I refused, suddenly I'm the villain? Suddenly I'm this selfish, heartless one? I wasn't the one who made a huge scene, that was them. I wasn't the one who decided to put money over family. They were, when they tried to use me as their personal ATM. And now, instead of dealing with the truth, they've resorted to publicly smearing my name because they know they're in the wrong. But here's the thing. I don't care anymore. I've spent years hoping for their approval, years working hard, achieving things that they barely acknowledged, while my sister got celebrated for the bare minimum. While I've let it slide when they made me feel like an outsider in my own family, when they dismissed my feelings, when they prioritized my sister time and time again. But this was the final straw. So, let me be absolutely clear. I am done. I don't want an apology. I don't want to talk it out. I don't want anything to do with people who only see me as a financial safety net and an emotional punching bag. From this moment forward, they are no longer my problem. And before anyone says, but they're your family, no. Family doesn't treat you like this. I reviewed it one last time, making sure there were no unnecessary emotions clouding my words. It was firm, it was factual, and most importantly, it was final. I hit post.